Startling claims, hidden power structures. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most secretive corporate dynasties in the modern world. We're diving into a dark financial system outlined in a recent, highly explosive expose. They call it the sickness cycle. Look, this isn't just about candy. It's about economic leverage. It's about psychological influence. And allegedly, it's about the exploitation of your family. The tension in these documents is absolutely palpable. Let's look at the evidence.
The source material instantly grabs us by the throat with a staggering number, $94 billion. Deep within McLean, Virginia, sits a hyper-secretive family controlling this unimaginable fortune. They operate entirely in the shadows. They are literally the fifth richest family on the planet, more powerful than Coca-Cola. Yet they've completely mastered the art of fading into the background. You wouldn't recognize them walking down the street, but their corporate footprint dictates your daily life.
And this unseen dominance leads us to a truly terrifying paradox at the heart of this explainer. What if the corporation selling your dog's food, those bright, colorful bags you trust from the grocery store, what if they are the exact same entity profiting from treating their illnesses? The authors of our source material raise this chilling proposition. It's a closed-loop system of profit, built entirely on psychological influence and absolute corporate control.
Section 1. A secret billion-dollar empire. Wealth beyond recognition.
Humanizing $94 billion is, well, it's almost impossible. But the source points out a shocking comparison to help us wrap our heads around it. Combine the wealth of Taylor Swift, Beyoncé, the Kardashians, and LeBron James, guess what? It doesn't even equal 5% of the Mars fortune. Let that sink in. It equates to 5 times the total wealth of the entire country of Fiji. We're talking about wealth beyond recognition, engineered to maintain an iron grip control over a global market.
Now, according to the expose, this empire definitely wasn't built overnight. It actually began with Franklin Mars, who overcame polio and early bankruptcies to strike gold with the Milky Way bar back in 1923. But the true architectural genius, that was his son, Forrest Mars. The texts literally describe him as an apex predator of business. Forrest transformed a simple candy company into an inescapable global force by creating M&Ms for the military. He wanted an empire, and to memorialize his absolute control, he stamped an M on every single piece. And no, it doesn't stand for M&Ms. It stands for Mars.
Section 2. Profiting from toxic ingredients. The human poison.
The investigation reveals a striking, undeniable geopolitical contrast. Just look at the difference in regulatory environments. Europe requires explicit, severe warning labels on products containing the yellow 6 dye used in Skittles and M&Ms. They literally warn of adverse effects on children. But here in America, that exact same chemical cocktail is marketed with a smile as a fun-size snack. The authors point to this as a deeply calculated exploitation of relaxed corporate oversight.
And the escalation here is profound. The report draws a very dark correlation between Mars' skyrocketing revenues from these hyper-processed foods and rising national rates of ADHD and chronic disease. Despite studies actually linking these synthetic dyes to tumors in the adrenal glands and kidneys, the source claims Mars outright refuses to replace them with natural alternatives in the United States. It's a calculated risk assessment. Human health, apparently, is deemed an acceptable casualty of profit margins.
Section 3. The Veterinary Monopoly Racket. Closing the loop.
So the source alleges that the pet food industry is virtually unregulated. And this massive loophole allows corporations to use what they call disgustingly cheap ingredients. We're talking diseased animal scraps, feathers, beaks, tumors, all of it cooked down into a shelf-stable kibble made of nasty livestock grains. They literally feed this to pets biologically meant to eat real meat. It's a slow, silent deterioration of health, all neatly packaged in bright, smiling bags.
And then the authors pose a devastating question. Panic sets in. Your dog is severely ill. You rush them to an emergency clinic. You swipe your credit card, paying thousands for emergency surgery and specialty treatments. But who actually owns that high-end facility? Who is waiting for you at the end of that desperate drive?
The twist here is just devastating. The expose reveals that Mars has spent billions of dollars operating entirely in silence to acquire a virtual monopoly on veterinary care. Just look at these names: VCA Hospitals, Blue Pearl, Banfield Pet Hospital. These massive, ubiquitous clinic networks across the country, they're owned by the exact same conglomerate that manufactures the cheap, hyper-processed pet food sitting on the grocery store shelves.
The investigation explicitly defines this dynamic as the sickness cycle. It's a ruthlessly efficient, never-ending loop of cash. The corporation acts as both the supplier of the poison and the seller of the cure. Think about it. They feed a pet toxic food, they treat the resulting chronic illness at their own specialized clinics, and then, to completely snap the trap shut, they prescribe their own aggressively priced specialty diets.
The authors summarize this dark matrix perfectly. They say it is a closed-loop system where the house always wins and your pet is just a willing cog. Within this monopoly, veterinarians are unwittingly trained by Mars-funded research to recommend these specialty, Mars-owned diets to fix the very chronic kidney failures and tumors their retail food allegedly caused in the first place. The emotional manipulation of a desperate pet owner is basically transformed into a highly predictable revenue stream.
Section 4. Escaping the corporate trap. Breaking the system.
So, how do we break out? To break the system, the author outlines a highly specific two-pronged approach. First, a complete and total rejection of corporate toxins. They argue for replacing chemical products derived from crude oil with natural basics, specifically highlighting their own Evil Goods grass-fed beef tallow and honey. Second, they strongly advocate for building independent income. The author promotes their 5-day faceless income fast start as a vehicle to escape the standard 9-to-5 grind, which they define as a trap of corporate taxation and endless debt manipulation.
This explainer concludes with the source's final, incredibly provocative directive. Model the thinking that works, buy assets that rise in value, and take back your health. Stay dangerous. It's a stark reminder from the investigators that these shadow empires rely entirely on our silent compliance. By understanding the hidden ownership and the dark financial systems at play, you refuse to be a willing cog in their machine. Because the sickness cycle only works if we don't realize we're in it. Keep questioning the systems around you, and as the source warns, always stay dangerous.